To say you gotta know somebody, or know somebody to get somewhere these days. To say you know that's alright, yeah that's alright, cause you know that's alright with me. Yeah, you know that's alright, yeah that's alright, cause you know that's alright.
I said, well, what's the address? It's 123 Oak Lane. Alright, 123 Oak Lane Trust.
Okay.
There you go.
Well, so by using trust, you know, an LLC is a statutory entity. You're using, the state gives you permission to do that. A trust is common law. So in common law, you know, it's a contract. All a trust is a contract between a beneficiary who is similar to a shareholder in a corporation and a trustee who is like a custodian, the guardian. Your 401k, your IRA, those are all trusts. It's all 401k or IRA, they're a trust. Custodian's your trustee.
They don't like it. Nobody likes it.
So, yeah, so George, as far as Pennsylvania goes, there's not really much case law that's there. I don't know of any case law that's too new. But,
is there anything that,
they don't like it.
I've used it to avoid transfer tax, because home off the record, you can sell the beneficial interest.
Yeah.
It doesn't show up as a transfer from the mortgage company or for the tax company.
So for Philadelphia,
is there any specific law that's been passed in the last 5 years that requires notification or anything?
So there's in the Department of Revenue, Department of Revenue, the Transfer Tax Division. There's like 5 employees that work there. I've spoken with them. It might be 4 now, but or no, in the government there's probably 10. They like to expand, but there's like 5 employees. I've spoken with all of them, and we had an interesting thing come up with the trust because we sent for, so basically in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia especially, it's 4% transfer tax to transfer property in Philadelphia. It's 2% in the suburbs, and typically customary, it's customary, not required, but it's customary that you split it, and I was, this is an aside, but when I'm buying a property, I want the seller to always pay it, and then when I'm selling a property, I want the buyer to pay it. This way it's half and half, right? So just make sure not that half. But a lot of times I pay all the transfer tax when I'm buying a house because the person's, they're getting a check. I'm paying all the closing costs. But when the property transfers to you, I'm always paying. I pay transfer tax on that. We transfer it into a trust. Once the transfer, what they told me is that I filed for exemption to transfer tax, and we were taking a property that was in a friend of mine's name. He had a 90-unit apartment building, and he goes to transfer it into a trust. And even though he was the beneficiary of that trust, they said you still have to pay transfer tax. I go, but it says here, and they go, aha. But what it says is, if the trust agreement says that that the beneficiary is a taxable entity, or any possible future beneficiary is a taxable entity, then you have to pay transfer tax. So like, So then when we asked them we said, well, now what happens if, we're paying it when it's not really due. So what happens if we sell the beneficial interest in the trust in the future? He goes, well, you've already paid it, so you can sell it as many times as you want after now.
They tax you once?
I go, really? That's kind of cool. And that came right directly from the guy.
Wow.
I mean, I didn't get like a private letter ruling on that, but they charge us transfer tax on the trust, putting it into it, even though. So one of the things that I have done is I put language in the trust that says no portion of the beneficial interest in this trust can be transferred to a taxable entity under the Department of Revenue Transfer Tax Division code. And by putting that in the code, it says right here, look, it says that none of it can be transferred. And if in such case where a taxable party is going to buy property, the property must be deeded out of the trust. And I put that language in there, and then I got the exemption after that.
Huh.
That's what I did.
So you did.
This is probably, everybody's probably like, huh?
This is
like pretty advanced.
Putting it into the trust, but if you wanted to deed it out to a private sale because they don't understand trust, there'd be another transfer tax. You'd still pay the transfer tax twice though.
I don't know. I would probably fight that and say, well, I paid it when I put it in. So typically when we're buying it right into the trust. We don't put it into our name and then transfer to a trust. I might sign a contract in my name and then assign the contract to the trust, and that funds the trust. But we're buying it, paying the transfer tax when we buy it into the trust, as we should. And just a little hint for people. I mean, I always record a $10 deed. Just I want the title company to say $10 deed. You know, if I buy the property, it's nobody's business what I bought it for. When I go to sell it down the road, you know, everybody's got access to the internet. They can pull up any property address and pull that up. So you kind of train the title company, and you know, you can put a nominal deed because it says $10 and other valuable consideration. You still have to pay transfer tax based on the value of the property, but it's just something that keeps the public, you know, out of the loop. As
now, when you want to take somebody's mortgage, if you leave them as one of the beneficial interests, even a small part, my understanding that they don't consider putting in their own be beneficial interest.
It's never come up for us. Yeah, you're talking about Garden Saint Germain, Garden Saint Germain.
Yeah, you see
Federal
trends.
Depository
Yeah,
Institute.
you're not gonna be able to. I don't want that. That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
It's an exemption for transfer tax. Garden Saint Germain.
Okay.
There's an exemption if you transfer to trust that they say they can't trigger that due on sale clause that we're talking about.
So in other words, if I own the property in my name and I put it into the trust where I was the only beneficiary, there'd be no transfer tax.
Yeah, well typically that, there
You're
should be.
telling me different.
Well, they're saying if you do that, if the trust cannot allow for trust beneficiary to be transferred to a taxable party without their knowledge. So, it's just something to look into. I can show you. Right. I can show you a PDF on that. It has all the rules and exemptions. So
That was my question.
So the main, back to, I mean, just so people understand trust, a trust is just an entity like a LLC or corporation, or if you're operating as yourself, your name is on the deed. If you're operating as an LLC, you might put your LLC on the deed. What I typically do is I put a trust on the deed that I hit print this thing out, and now that's who's the owner. Who do you want it to be? You know, boom, put it in, and I can name it anything I want without getting permission from any government body. And then I can make the beneficiary of that trust. Beneficiary is kind of like a shareholder in a corporation, but nothing. Beyond that, it's not similar at all. But the beneficiaries could be anybody. It could be 33% me, 33% another guy, 33% another guy, and we can split it. I prefer to do it on. I really would like to do it on the deed sometimes, where you have 3 different trusts on the deed, and 3 different people own those trusts. Or you could just say one trust is owned 33, 33, 33, and you split it up that way. So that's how we do it. But the trust is just a title holding entity. And the trust, the only thing, people say, you've heard of like AV trusts or what are some of the other estate planning trusts?
Revocable? Irrevocable.
Yeah, that's a function of the trust. So you have revocable or irrevocable or
I thought you have to go to an attorney to settle this up, or?
Yeah, I went to an attorney to set up mine.
Yeah.
And then once I had it, I just boilerplated it and then filled it in.
Correct.
Right.
And we just changed the things that we need to change, and that's it. But the nice thing is, now if I get a lien on the, if I get a lien on the Robinson Trust, it doesn't affect the Caruso Trust. So that way, if there's a trash lien on this one, it doesn't affect that one. So that was a good thing for Philadelphia. Now in the suburbs, you don't have that issue because, I haven't had that issue.
And for what you said, when you buy something at a title, you can put down $10 that you purchased something for? How did you say?
Yeah, we just record the deed as a nominal deed. So I tell the title company, please record a nominal deed. I don't want to disclose my purchase
Nominal
price.
deed, okay.
There are a lot of other advantages to it as well. I mean,
Sure.
we met some very experienced real estate investors in Florida who use the trust, as a method of hiding who owns the building. So they'll have
It's an anonymity.
Yeah, sure,
That's
sure.
the number one thing. It's anonymity.
He was telling us a story about he buys properties for trust, and he doesn't even get umbrella policies. He gets very limited,
cheapest ones.
limited liability, the smallest amount of liability insurance that he could get. And he said he had a property where somebody had fallen and supposedly broke their ankle on his property, and an attorney was looking for a year and a half to try to figure out who the hell were the owners of this trust, who were the beneficiaries, which was information he could not obtain. So,
But from a beginner level, the trust is really something to kind of keep the. If you look up some of the investors in town that are doing a lot of deals, you can come up with a whole laundry list of deals. It took me 2 or 3 deals before I figured it out. That I said, oh geez, if somebody looks me up, they can find all these deals. But now I just have one property that's titled in my name. Cause that looks pretty normal, you know?
You can
That one
actually
property
go
title in
in,
your name looks like you're just the average Joe.
Yeah, I mean, there's actually a function in Trend where you can go in and put in the owner's name.
Yeah.
If you're a real estate investor and you own them in your own name, I mean, boom, I got your entire portfolio in about 5 seconds.
Yeah.
Really easy.
If you guys
Scary
have-
when you see that.
If you
know.
guys had access to the MLS, you put in the word like buyers, and anybody that has
Yeah.
home buyers in their name or whatever. comes up. Means a
You
lot
could
of
look
money.
up famous people. I mean, I found out where Allen Iverson lived once.
Yes.
Put his name in, there it is.
Find that
Oh,
out.
yeah, I mean,
So I mean, on an advanced level, the trusts are good for asset protection. They're good for passing on. Like if I die, the trust automatically goes. Or, you know, my wife and I died in a car wreck. The trust automatically goes into custodianship for the kids without going through probate.
Right.
So it completely gets rid of probate, so it doesn't have to go through the open eyes of the court where you have a public file. Or somebody dies and probates a will. They say, wow, look at all the stuff the person owns. Well, in my will, it just has, you know, a few things like things for the kids and whatever, custodianship of the kids, but then all the assets, like even the car that I drove here is owned in a trust. So that car automatically goes to whoever I have in the trust.
But you don't even show up in probate.
No, they would have to probate something, but
Yeah, I
it's
mean,
not
but your
much.
properties in your trust would just,
I have some, yeah, I have
you'd
some
be
stuff.
anonymous.
But yeah, it's just
Cool.
Yeah, so it just avoids the whole probate process, so it's not open, public eye.
Yeah.
It's for privacy, avoiding the probate, which is phenomenal. And anonymity is a big thing too, so somebody doesn't look you up and see this whole laundry list and stuff.